Happy Thursday and welcome to today's episode of Thursday Tech Bites. We got a special free Veeam bench press episode here for you today. I'm Rick Vanover, Senior Director of Product Strategy at Veeam, and I've got a great guest here. I'd like to welcome in Wally MacDermid. Good day, Wally. How are you doing?
I am doing phenomenal. Rick, thanks so much for hosting me today.
Outstanding. Now, Wally's based in California. I'm in Central Ohio. We've got a producer in Texas and Georgia. Let's light up the application. We had some great feedback already for some people. Hey, Chris in Kentucky, and then some others around the world already tuning in with your locales. Let us know where you're joining us from. And we're actually quadcasting across Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, maybe more. Who knows? Let us know where you're from, and we're going to light up the map. And I've got the LinkedIn feed up here so I can see this coming in. So, we are right on the edge of Veeam, Wally, and it's going to be a crazy week next week. I know you're going to be out there. We're going to talk a little bit about Veeam, but we're going to talk a lot about ultra resilient storage. But I want to give you, in particular, a really important shout out. So, one of my I don't know if I want to call it a favorite burden or most honorable responsibilities is I help out the team on breakout content. And tell us a little bit about your story that you're bringing next week to Veeam.
Yeah, we're going to talk about 5 levels of cybersecurity that Veeam and Scality can offer our joint customers together. It's really an interesting architecture stack that covers from storage, where Scality plays, all the way through the network, and of course up to the Veeam application. So I'll be presenting with Candida Valois, our field CTO for the Americas. We're super excited about it.
Yeah, and congratulations on the topic and the fit for the audience. You have the interesting distinguishment. We had to give you a bigger room. You had one of the most pre-registered sessions ever, and it's outstanding to see that from a partner. So congratulations to that. We'll try to make sure we can sneak in there ourselves as well. Now, let's kind of build on that topic. So let's go over to the slides here. I want to show you a cool topic, ultra resilient storage options made easy. Now, Wally, I didn't talk about this, but I do want to dig into this word, ultra resilient, because I made that word up. You guys must like it. You took it, right?
We do. Well,
Awesome.
well done.
Yeah, so I made this up in the ransomware conversation, and we're going to spend our time today around the Veeam Ready object with immutability, those object storage resources, and there's plenty of options in the Veeam world here, but there's no mistake that this one is first and top left on the list, because I think if you think about the future, the direction of technology, this is really the way, the future, the direct object storage backup that came with V12, the Veeam data platform. It's really a great time to put object storage as a first-class citizen. So help us walk into a little bit more on this, Wally. So one of the key elements here of what you guys are doing with some of these technologies is around 5 levels, a little preview of what we're going to see next week. But we've got like some news that we want to talk about too.
We do. On Tuesday of this week, just a couple of days ago, Scality was super proud to announce our Tesca 2.0. We'll talk about that product a little bit more as we go through the slides, but that'll be a fundamental piece of the presentation that we do next week on the 5 levels of cyber resiliency.
Well, that's pretty cool. I think, aligning it to some of the different audiences and what they want from a object storage provider or place to put those backups. By the way, Ilya, love your comment. Best backup system ever. Yeah, love that.
Thank you.
But, Wally, walk me through a little bit. What is Scality? What is software-defined storage? I mean, there's a lot of options in storage nowadays. And kind of, guide us into where we're going to be talking here today.
Sure. So Scality is a 13-year-old software company. We're on-premises storage. So you can think of us as an alternative to the public cloud for companies who have security concerns, cost concerns, you face pressures from local regulations. So software-defined storage, what that means is you can take any server from any hardware vendor you want. Those are the gray boxes at the bottom of this slide. You put our software on top of it. We pool all of the storage in those servers into an incredibly limitless, resilient, durable on-prem storage that's, as we'll talk about over the next few slides, a great option for backup and for Veeam specifically.
Yeah, so that you hit on something really important, Wally. When we went with the direct object storage capability, and then, in addition to some of the other innovations we've had around object storage, we actually really see that on-premises unified systems that can offer, and they don't even have to be unified. They, in fact, even purpose-built, kind of like where you're going. Those are very strategic, very important for the future. I think that we realize, the hyperscale public cloud providers and dedicated storage providers, and then even service providers offering object storage, we see it on all fronts. So I think that that is a really strategic view, I think. And then if we had to kind of, unpack that a little bit, from an industry perspective, you guys are doing some really important and good things in this market, I take it.
Well, we certainly think we are, and I'll talk more about our products in a couple of minutes, but we're very proud of this slide. Gartner, the analyst firm, which I assume most of the audience is familiar with, they do a critical capabilities report about once a year. And in the last report that came out late last year, Scality was ranked #1 for the backup use case, which is clearly important for our partnership with Veeam. Really what that means is Gartner looked at Scality's performance, our resiliency, our durability, all the important factors, maybe most importantly, the cost effectiveness, which, in this market in these times, we know is super important for customers. So I think the key theme you'll hear from me today and from Scality moving forward is how can we help protect your business from ransomware with enterprise capabilities, but also at a very affordable cost.
Well, that's really interesting. I mean, I'll be transparent with everyone. The critical capabilities is like and if we've ever been watching the Industry Insights stream that we do on Tuesdays with Sir Dave Russell and Jason Buffington, they break this down quite often. But for this audience, the critical capabilities is like one of those accompanying resources that go with the Magic Quadrant in certain disciplines. It's not consistent across all of them. I'll tell you, Wally, I spend my entire month of March and April
Yeah.
working on the critical capabilities. And for those who don't know what goes into that, I'll tell you it's the most thorough RFP type of survey questionnaire you could ever imagine, and you'll never forget. So that's reason number 13 why I am still bald and such. But it is quite the endeavor. And so I could imagine, for a storage service, storage platform, just as engaging as what we might do on the backup side. So congratulations there.
Thank you.
I think that, like I said, that's an important validation that sits in the market, and do not take those things lightly. There's a lot of work that goes into those. And in fact, when we were preparing, Wally, I actually asked you this question. What's our Tesca versus Ring? Are they the same thing? Are they different? Is it a big, a little? Kind of, because I was familiar with Ring with some of our other joint partners like HPE likes to deploy Ring on some platforms. Kind of give me a mall map of sorts of these two platforms and who's the right audience for them.
Yeah, so to keep it very simple, for those of you who are familiar with Scality, you probably know Ring. It's been around since 2010, since we were founded. Ring is an amazing product. It's capable of incredibly difficult workloads. For those of you who have ever been on an airplane, which I assume is most of the folks on the call today, 60% of the world's boarding passes that you get on your mobile phone when you get on a plane, those are served up from a Ring. That same deployment actually powers 1 billion with a B searches for airline tickets every day. So if you're trying to figure out if you want to go to Toledo or Paris or Singapore and you're on your favorite website doing searches, it's likely that those are coming off a Scality Ring. So think of Ring as really big, hundreds of petabytes of storage, really interesting geo-distributed capabilities. You can distribute across 3 or more sites. And it's capable of all sorts of fine tuning. Very, very powerful product. A few years ago, though, we realized that not every customer problem requires, a super sophisticated product. So we brought our Tesca to market. The nice thing about our Tesca is it has all of the enterprise capabilities that Scality is known so well for. So it's got your security, your durability, and things like that. But it's very lightweight. It can actually be installed in under 30 minutes, starting on a single machine. So for customers, for example, who just want 50 terabytes, 100 terabytes, 200 terabytes of local on-premises storage for Veeam and ransomware protection, our Tesca is a very easy, very affordable solution.
Well, so I learned two important things in there. Number one, don't ding the ring because it
Don't
is
ding the ring.
don't ding the ring. And then number two, our Tesca seems like it could fit a lot of different edge cases, maybe some smaller deployments. So it looks like it's really suitable for every different audience. So good stuff. Well, I just got word from the producers that the application is ready. And if you haven't already, drop in the chat on the social platform that you're joining us from. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We have a couple different editions. We have Germany, we have Denmark, we have Poland, we have Honduras and Central America there. Over in Europe, we've added Turkey as well. I know you're out there. You just got to let us know, friends. Let us know where you're joining us from. And then SARC region still representing solid, almost 100% participation. So, okay, I talked Hosma into it. I'll give you a like for that. So, yeah, cheers. Thank you for responding there, Hosma, on the chat. I'm watching this. This is live, friends. All right, so Wally, this is good stuff. When I think about these platforms, software-defined storage, it's near and dear to my heart, right? Because Veeam is a software player in the backup market. You know, I really can appreciate that. But let's put it in Veeam terms. And V12, what came out in February, huge milestones. And you're one of the few partners that are engaged with the Smart Object Storage API. Walk us through how Scality plays for a Veeam audience, and I see that we've got a couple of different products depending on the capacity or such. What's your recommendation when you talk to organizations about Veeam and Scality?
Yeah, so we were super excited to work closely with Veeam on the version 12 launch and be an early adopter of the Smart Object Storage API. So Ring and our Tesca, it really depends. Do you have a lot of data or a little bit of data? Do you want to start small? Do you know you're going to be big? With Veeam 12, as you know, Rick, with direct to object storage, Veeam can now write its initial backups to object storage on the performance tier. And depends on what your business needs are. If you're a service provider, you mentioned them a few minutes ago, maybe you do need dozens and dozens, maybe 100 of petabytes of storage so you can support your end user customers. In that case, Ring is probably the right choice for you. If you're a organization that has hundreds of smaller remote offices, or as you mentioned, edge locations, you want something that's lighter weight and maybe simpler to deploy, our Tesca could be the right answer. The nice thing about Scality is we'll let you use whichever product is the right fit for the architecture that you need. So for the performance tier, you can use Ring or our Tesca. For the capacity tier, Ring or our Tesca. Long-term retention, that's typically going to be more data. You can certainly use our Tesca there. There's nothing technically that would prevent it, but we think most of our customers will store many petabytes on Ring for long-term retention.
Yeah, so I will walk this through kind of my perspective in Veeam terms. In fact, I had a really interesting discussion on the community hub this week of should I just jump in and go with object storage as that first target? And the individual, they were contemplating that the benefit of that, and that particular object storage was offsite. And then I'm like, well, if you're doing a massive egress and you don't have a lot of internet connectivity, there's a distinct benefit of massive restores when it's local. So then they're like, oh, that's interesting. But I love having these flexible options here. And so just for everyone on the call here on the stream, performance tier, capacity tier, and long-term retention tier, these are just different levels of how you can configure object storage in the scale-out backup repository. So it's very possible you could have a life cycle across two Scality deployments, and or even maybe just an offsite option as well, or maybe a central location if you have on premises. Maybe the organization is deployed Ring or Artisca. You could have it go to the HQ. It doesn't have to go to something that starts with an A. So a lot of different options here. The flexibility is just really important. And one thing I want to highlight about what Veeam does with object storage is it kind of tears it apart in a good way. Bear with me, friends. We don't just like put in these massive multi-terabyte chunks and big files. It's just not really a good idea for the way object storages work. So there's this process where some metadata is taken and then some individual pieces of data in much smaller units are put into the object storage with some efficiencies and some intelligence that really make it work better for the platform. And then I mentioned that smart object storage API. That gets real complicated real quick, but the short story is there's like data locality awareness, there's node awareness, and little things like that that can make the ingest and the egress just a lot more efficient for organizations. So I think that organizations can really benefit from object storage in general with Veeam, and I love when they can, proceed on the integrated area with our smart object storage API. And then the easy way to know that you're using that correctly in Veeam is your icon will go from green to blue. So it'll say S3 integrated. So good stuff, good stuff. That's right, Hosmo, we're talking about Scality. Indeed, I'll give you a like for that. So Wally, walk me through specifically 2.0. So that's what's new. What do we need to know here?
Yeah, so I think the bullet that's on the slide now is probably the key takeaway message. It's the enterprise capabilities with the enterprise support from Scality, right? 24/7 worldwide support for ransomware protection, and yet at an incredibly affordable price. Under $4,000 a year can get you started. Again, our Tesca can start on a single node. So you can so quickly and easily start protecting your business against this crazy, ubiquitous threat that we're all seeing around ransomware that seems to pop up in the news every day. So with Veeam and our Tesca 2.0, you're off and running and protecting your business within an hour.
So that brings up a good point. Sounds like a pretty attractive price point. I'll be honest with you. I cut my own software licenses, Wally. I'm far removed from prices and quotes nowadays, but and a lot of the Veeam partners hook us up, so that's good stuff too. But you mentioned it's software defined, so it's bring your own equipment. For the artist platform, how prescriptive, or is there a documented compatibility guide, or because people can do interesting things when they bring their own hardware.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about like the platform support.
For sure. So with our Tesca, we try to lock down the configurations as much as possible. If you need ultimate flexibility and you want to do anything you want with the hardware and you want to tune dials and twist knobs, Ring is the product for you. Right? We talk about flexibility versus simplicity. Sometimes you can't always have both. If you want simplicity, we give you a very prescribed set of hardware that we've tested on, we've validated on, we have an automated installer for, we have performance numbers for, best practices for. So that's really the market that our Tesca is focused on. It's for people who don't want or need that ultimate flexibility. If you do, Scality can support you with Ring, but our Tesca is much more of a prescribed solution.
No, I think that's important. I mean, it's important to be flexible, but I think there's just a taste in the market, I think, for like a turnkey appliance, because I think that when organizations are looking at the problem they're trying to solve, they want it ready to go, they want it quick, and if we're talking about those smaller deployments, and even those are still pretty respectable numbers, right? But when you think about what the real need is for those types of environments, turnkey sounds pretty appealing. So, another other data point here is that just over 12 innovations here, just again, working towards that big problem of keeping data safe from bad things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is our Tesca 2.0 is the product of months and months of work by our engineering department and our customers over the past couple of years. So again, super excited. And the next slide, I can dive into a little bit more detail on some of these. Obviously, today we'll give a quick flyby. For those of you who are interested in more detail, I've got a pointer for you at the end of the presentation, or if you are going to be in Miami with Rick and me next week, please swing by the Scality booth and we can show you the product. We can point you to download all sorts of good stuff. So Rick, we had talked about early on the entire network stack, right? So when bad guys come after your data or your business, they don't come after just one component. They attack your network, they attack the operating system, they attack servers. Maybe they even attack some of your people through some of the phishing techniques. So with Scality, what we're talking about here is we really do enable multiple levels of protection and cyber resiliency, certainly in partnership with Veeam. So starting at the top, you've got the application level. You mentioned it at the top of the presentation. Amazon S3 object locking is now the industry standard. Basically, what that means is when you write data, you can't overwrite it or change it. When you add new data, it creates a new version. So that's been part of our products forever. What we've added in our Tesca 2.0 is automated enforcement of Veeam's best practices around who can access and control that data. So that now there's a tighter link between Veeam and Scality software so that we're helping to enforce your best practices. On the network side, we've always had network encryption. Now we've added multi-factor authentication. So your admins and your users can make sure that they are the authorized people logging into the Scality UIs. And we have some cool new firewall rules as well. Storage, obviously, that's key to what Scality does. We've always done erasure coding. For those of you out there who aren't familiar with what that means, that basically means we break down your data into multiple chunks, and then we distribute those chunks across the distributed environment. Somebody trying to look at your data, they're just going to see a meaningless chunk. They're not going to be able to actually read the source data. I mentioned our Tesca starts at one node. When we first released our Tesca 1.0 a couple of years ago, it was 1 and 3 servers only. With 2.0, we've expanded that to 6 servers. So now you can get to a pretty beefy 5 petabyte deployment. On the appliance side, super happy to announce that we now have a software appliance with an integrated, hardened Linux operating system. I think the OS has long been one of the most popular targets for bad actors to go after. So now that's embedded within the Tesca solution. Customers, partners don't have to worry about it. And then last but not least, geographic replication. What that means is we can, along with Veeam, distribute data from 1 site, 2 site, 3 sites or more. So going back to the slide, Rick, that you showed a few minutes ago, you could have our Tesca in data center 1, and then Ring in data center 2, and maybe data center 3. So you have 3 separate locations. Maybe you have different physical security layers. I can get into data center 1 with 1 badge, but then I need a second badge to get into data center 3. This really allows you any number of ways to protect not just your data at the storage layer, but your entire architecture stack and organization.
Yeah, it's about layers. It's about
That's right.
layers of resiliency, additional layers of protection. And, I think that there's no such thing as too much resiliency,
That's
ultra
right.
resiliency. Love it. And let me just double down one thing that makes the most, it carries the most weight. When I talk to the Veeam support team, so a lot of you know I'm based here in Central Ohio. We have one of our support centers here. The critical incidents team, which is the group that handles ransomware, their number one piece of advice for 4 years running, Wally, is that the most important thing that someone can do to drive successful data recovery is to have an ultra resilient copy of their data. So
Yeah.
thinking offline, air gapped, immutable, or something that requires four eyes recovery. That is the way. That is the single most effective specimen to drive data recovery in a ransomware event. So
Right.
let's take these layers. And you said you had a special offer here at this short URL.
Yeah, so for those of you who want to learn more about Scality and how we work with Veeam and protect your business from ransomware, very simple. Just go to scality.com/6. And that page will walk you through the many different ways that we work with Veeam, point you to video demos, downloads of our software, all sorts of things. And again, for those of you who are going to be in Miami next week, we would love to meet you in person at our booth at Veeam On.
Yeah, speaking of Miami, it's going to be legit. We will have so many, people there. We hit our goal for on-site attendance. In fact, exceeded it. So it's great. Virtual event is doing outstanding. So we're ready for it. So it's going to be awesome. And there's 2 important things I want to highlight. First, we have an enhanced experience. We're going to be bringing the Veeam On Today show back to Veeam in Miami. The producers are going to be sick of me. You've got me for 3 days with Veeam today. We're going to be doing that Monday at noon. We do plan on multicasting that on the social streams as well as the virtual event platform. Then Tuesday at 8 o'clock Eastern, and then Wednesday, 8 o'clock Eastern. Early is early for the Ricketron, but better than the West Coast, Wally. I'll tell you, I think we were 5 a.m. for Veeam today last year because we have to catch the Europe audience as well. Whoa, this is a little bit better. And then also, real important new experience that we're bringing to Veeam in Miami is the Industry Insights stream. So the Dave and Jason show, right, is going to have 4 runtimes. They're going to be live. Let's see, and that's the wrong set of notes. Let's go with noon on Tuesday, noon on Wednesday, and 4:30 on Wednesday. Those are all East Coast time, New York time, Miami time. So the Industry Insights streams are going to be rocking it as well. And for those of you watching this, there's still time to sign up for the virtual experience. Just go on over to veeam.com. You can sign up for free. Here's a tip. You can watch some preloaded content right now. You can binge watch. Password Ricketron. No, there's no password, but you can do that right now. There's some preloaded content. Next week, there's going to be a virtual experience, run a show. And then here's the tip. At the end, let's just say 2 weeks after, then you can binge watch all of the different things, including things captured in Miami. So that's a little pro tip that we're not sharing, but you only hear it on Thursday Tech Bites. So really looking forward to it. Hey, Wally, thank you so much for joining me here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Rick. Really appreciate it.
Indeed. And a big thanks to our producers, Mark and Felicia. Like I said, everyone's under the bench press. We're right up against Veeam, but let's end this stream with a quick preview of what we're going to see next week in Miami.